In this video, I talk the Rockets defeating the Milwaukee Bucks and why I think they have to make a move at the deadline. Tap in right now. Enjoy. The Rockets Chop Shop is your one-stop shop for all your basketball needs, for highlights, analysis, podcasts. We do it all here at the Rockets Chop Shop. Make sure you hit the like button on the videos that you watch if you enjoy them. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications from all the great drops that we have on the channel. Also, you can visit the Chop Shop merch store and get you some of the swaggiest gear in the Houston Rockets kingdom. And if you want, you can always support the channel directly through donations. And if you want, you can support us through our partnerships with our sponsors. The Rockets Chop Shop is made by fans, for fans, and we're going to keep rocking and keep dropping that heat.
This is something I know.
So the Rockets got the improbable win over the Milwaukee Bucks. And what an interesting game. I did not expect us to be able to put up the fight that we did. I did not expect us to be able to play the way we did. I felt like the Bucks were just sleepwalking the whole game and we punished them for it. But there are some things that I saw from the game, from the outset of the game, that really helped the Rockets capture this victory. And, the main thing was their defense. That's number one, first and foremost. Not the best defense against Giannis, though. Giannis did drop a smooth 48 on us, right? 64% from the field. Went to the free throw line 21 times. So we could not stop fouling Giannis. Obviously, one of the best players in the league. But even in that, it was a 4-point game at the end. Most of it was kind of capped. They did make a late push towards the end of the game. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I think that the Rockets did enough on defense to be able to beat this team and beat them handily. And what I like about how we're playing now compared to last season is these wins are coming off of just grueling effort on the defensive end, not hot shooting night. Because you look at across our guys, nobody shot well tonight for the Rockets. There wasn't nothing really that stood out as far as with our starting players. Usually when we beat these type of teams, somebody had 60%, shooting and dropped 35 or something like that. None of that. Like looking at the scoring totals from the starting five, Jason Tate only 4 points, Jabari 14 points, Sengun 21 points, Jalen Green 16, and Fred 14. Now, we did get a big pop off our bench units. They won this game for us in stretches, but I still think that there were things that the starters did that was able to punish what the Bucks were trying to guard us like. And this does speak to the level of coaching that Ime Udoka is. Now, I got a little beef with Udoka. One, the challenges. I think he is definitely one of the worst challenging coaches in the NBA. He needs to get better at that. Number two, and there was a stretch in the game towards the fourth quarter where he left the bench units a little bit too long in there, and they were going to choke the game away. Luckily, he brought the starters in, but it shouldn't never been that close. Like, you got to know when to make a decision about bringing your guys in, especially when the other team has their starters in. You had Giannis out there, you had Dame out there, you had guys like Holiday and Tate. Like, you got to know when to pull the cards and get those starters back in. So, a little blip there, but otherwise, I think the game plan was masterful. On the offensive end, if you guys listen to this channel, I've been saying it for probably the whole season now about the Rockets attacking bigs in a drop. This is something that we have failed to do this season, which has punished teams for playing drop coverage against us. And in this game, not only Fred VanVleet got into the action, finally stopped trying to take crazy layups. I think he did take one that he missed, but also Jalen Green got into the action of attacking bigs in a drop. Then even you had Sengun get into the action. And I'm going to give a shout out to Ryan Hollins. I give him a lot of grief. A lot of people do, but I actually think that lately he's been calling the games pretty good. And one thing he pointed out was you cannot allow the Bucks to play the drop coverage on the Rockets. You cannot allow that with the type of players that we have. Even in the live stream I had done prior to this game after the Minnesota game is me kind of complaining about what the Rockets are lacking as a team is guys that can punish the drop. Theoretically, Fred VanVleet should be able to punish the drop, but he doesn't always do that. As good as a point guard Fred is and as great as a veteran and the leadership he provides, his shot selection is very, very poor. A lot, especially in late game situations, but I think the type of shots he was taking in this game really forced the hand of the Milwaukee Bucks to be able to adjust their game plan. If you guys notice in that game, they had, started off with Lopez playing the drop coverage against the Rockets, had Lopez guarding Sengun. So when they would come set screens with Sengun, he would be in a drop. Fred, Jalen would come off and attack him on the drives. Fred would come off and shoot a three or get into his midi bag. And we really blew the doors open with that. They made the wise adjustment in the game to take Lopez and put him off of Sengun so that if they want to set a screen, it would be with a non-screener. And we've seen that adjustment being done. We've done that before, right? We've done that adjustment before where we try to hide a big in a drop. So as good as Lopez is, they had to hide him. I do want to take this time out to point that out to the fan base because I feel like a lot of people don't understand how NBA defenses work. It doesn't matter really. Like Lopez is a great defender, and we saw that today in the way that he was bothering Sengun at the rim, not only as a primary defender, but also as a help defender whenever he would try to make moves on smaller players. But what you have to understand about NBA defenses, there's rules, there's concepts within them. It is usually not based on just the player themselves. And especially when you're playing pick and roll or screen defense, you cannot do it by yourself. I'm saying this to say one Damian Lillard torched us last year in the drop coverage as we played that. And you guys keep hearing me emphasize drop coverage. A lot of teams play drop. The reason I emphasize it so much for us, because not only on the defensive side, Alperen Sengun, if he's going to be in a drop, the team has to be bought in. And in this game, they were, right? And on the offensive end with the players, especially Jalen Green, when I was making videos about Jalen's upside when he was a rookie and a sophomore, the thing that I always focused on was him being a drop killer. Whether it's him coming off the screens and shooting or getting downhill to the basket and punishing those big men who don't have the hip flexibility, the foot speed to be able to change direction, to be able to bother him as he attacks the rim. The reason I'm pointing out all this in relation to Brook Lopez is that as dominant as a defender that he is, you can exploit him just simply based on that coverage, and the Rockets did that. And the Bucks countered by taking him out of the main action and then allowing Sengun to play. I forgot the kid's name. Let me see what his name is. On Andre Jackson. And here's why I had a problem with Andre Jackson Jr. guarding Sengun. The Rockets, there was a moment where the Bucks almost made a run where they allowed themselves not to take advantage of what the Bucks were conceding. So you have hit square one, which is forced the team to adjust, right? So they adjusted by taking Lopez off of Sengun and allowing a smaller players to guard Alperen Sengun. The next step for them is to be disciplined enough as a team, especially Fred and Jalen, because there was a stretch in that period, I think it was the third quarter, where they started playing a little bit of hero ball. And they wanted to just get their shots up, and it got really close in the game, and we had to go back and adjust to get Alperen Sengun the ball. I know Alp did not shoot well in this game, but you have to be disciplined enough as a team to understand, like, this is the advantage we have. You have to exploit it. James Harden would exploit that advantage a million times till you countered again. Chris Paul would exploit that advantage a million times. LeBron James, Luka. That's what it has to come to for our guys. And a little bit disappointing in Fred VanVleet that he doesn't have that discipline in himself, especially in late game situations. But in that moment in the third quarter, as they conceded to allow Sengun to cook, you have to let him cook. We don't want to see you pull up threes, bro. So that's a problem I had. Luckily, the Bucks really couldn't score or do much off of it besides Giannis just barreling to the basket and dunking on everybody. But they did finally start going towards Sengun, and he drew like 2 or 3 fouls, and then the game blew back open after a couple of threes from him getting doubled. But stuff like that is what I need our vets to be able to control. Stuff like that is what I'm talking about when I was talking about in the against the Wolves about some of the issues that, you know, the team has. Little things like that. We just need higher IQ collectively to be able to compete at that level. And I think we can compete at that level. But, you know, the game plan the Rockets had, attacking the drop coverage, and then on defense, having Jabari guard Giannis. Now, Giannis dropped, like I said, he dropped damn near 50. But what you did was you make him work for it. And then you close out and help on the other guys. This was some of the best help defense I've seen from the Rockets all year. And you have to help with the Bucks. And shout out to Coach Udoka for making that pivot, because what he tried to do in the first matchup where we got destroyed is that he has this defensive philosophy where he lets guys go on an island. You guys heard me talk about it. The players are going to be on an island. You have to guard your matchup. And then, especially if it's going to be a prominent player, you guard your main matchup. And then from there on, you kind of shut out the other guys. The problem with his philosophy, and I think Milwaukee was the first one that really took advantage of it. When you have multiple guys, you can't play like that, right? I can't say I'm going to let Giannis go one-on-one and drop 50, but on flanking him is Dame Lillard and other star players, Chris Middleton type players, you know what I mean? That could also hurt you. And that's what they've done. Whereas you're going to have Giannis going on one-on-one, then you're going to kick out and let Dame cook and get open threes or get downhill on closeouts. So what they elected to do in this game is to treat multiple players as the main target and construct a team defense that focused on helping guarding the paint and allowing guys to be able to rotate and forcing bad shooters to take the shots that they wanted. And they did a great job doing that. They were engaged from the start, and that's the mark of a good coach. Not only, every night is not going to be your night. Some nights you're going to get blasted. It's what do you do on the counter? I always like to watch coaches play on a second game against the same team, because that's why I said when we beat the Kings twice in a row, I knew okay, we got a good coach. And you had to go hear the Kings coaches post-game conference after that, just saying they got just outcoached, outworked, they got whipped. He said that because in order to beat a team, again, after playing them once, it means that there's a lot of thought and intention in the game plan. And I think Ime had a great game plan for this. And the Rockets, coming off a back-to-back in a game where they got embarrassed, to have a performance like this is truly, truly special. Just going through some of the box scores from the game, let's look at those. Jayshawn Tate, 19 minutes. I don't get why he starts. Even the games where Tari's healthy, obviously I know why he's starting now. There's no Tari, there's no Dylan Brooks, but Tate, 2 or 3 from the field. He had a couple good offensive possessions. Otherwise, I think he's getting cooked on defense on a nightly basis. I can't wait for Dylan and Tari to return, because I feel like, once again, I keep telling y'all, when we get after the All-Star break, these dudes are going to go on a run. They're going to go on a tear where they win 10 out of 13 games, something like that. This is definitely a lower seed playoff team, in my opinion. And some of the stuff I'm going to talk about in a little bit kind of lends into that. Jabari played 40 hard minutes where he played great perimeter defense. And I think his perimeter defense was very impressive. His post defense on Giannis was not that great. Obviously, Giannis was not a lot of players can guard Giannis in the post, but I think he gave him enough of fits, forced him to get to the line, really made it tough on him, played a scrappy game. So Jabari, it hit a big 3 on a pretty kick out from Alperen Sengun to close out the game there, to kind of a little bit of a dagger there. But 42% from the field, went 3 of 5 from the 3-point line. So kind of glad to see his 3-ball come back. Once again, the theme of Jabari being a great rebounder is still there. So you're happy about that. 14 big points. And yeah, just a great game from him. Really used his time, 40 minutes, to match up with Giannis and do a great job. And he's still a baby. We saw what they did to him yesterday against the Minnesota Timberwolves. They really picked on Jabari, especially in the post-ups. He was getting posted up by multiple players, and they were just walking through him. Now, it does kind of say Giannis, Giannis is a different beast. And you guard him a little differently than you would a Karl Anthony Towns or a Naz Reid or a Rudy Gobert, whoever it is. But I think that the theme for Jabari going into this summer is going to be the same, bro. You need to get stronger, because if you can have the complete package of being a perimeter defender as he is and being able to guard in the paint, then you're talking about one of the best, multiple level defenders in the league if he can get there. And the defensive awareness that he was lacking to start the year, literally, with the jump that he's made, one of the biggest jumps he's had is on that end. Not even just his matchups as one-on-one defense, but his ability to guard within the construct of a team. There's a lot left to be desired that he needs to improve upon, The rotations are bad sometimes. The playing that kind of that weak side shot blockers is something that he needs to really add to his game. But otherwise, just his overall team defense has improved immensely. For Alperen Sengun, 31 minutes, won 7 of 21. This dude, he missed so many easy layups. Like, he should have had like 40 points tonight, because a lot of those layups, I think you heard the footsteps of Brook Lopez. He needs to get over that, man. Like, and start punching it in. Stop, I know we love the little finger rolls and stuff, but he got to know when he playing among some really big boys, you got to just finish strong. But I think he had a wonderful game. I love this game. And not only on the offensive end, I actually think he had a great defensive game, but the offense, I think he had a great game because he was able to get to the free throw line 10 times. I think that even though he missed a lot of those shots, what he was doing with his screening, what he was doing with his post-ups forced the Milwaukee Bucks to have to change their defense multiple times. And it was because of nobody but him, right? And that's the mark to me. Once again, when I look at stars, can you get to the line? Can you bend the defense? What is your gravity like? He has true gravity. Their game plan for Alp was to allow him to catch in a post, and then when he makes his initial move, and teams been doing this, is nothing new, swarm him and try to attack him, get your weak side help to come and try to swat him as he goes to the post, because he's not a very vertical player. And what he did with that was he started getting guys in foul trouble, right? Because he's not just going to go aggressively. He was slow playing it. And then he's, kicking it out to other guys out there to make the shots. He only had 4 assists, but, he had a bunch of hockey assists, 21 points. Like I say, he could have had 31, 41 points if he just made his layups. But I think his gravity was really important and got a lot of our guys going. His gravity got Fred, the shots that he made in attacking the drop coverage, and Jalen Green getting downhill off of Sengun screens, with the threat of him being out there to catch and hit his little floaters, allow Jalen to get into some actions. Once again, 31 minutes. I think they sat him through a stretch because the bench was playing really, really well. But yeah, just the consistency that he's playing with is really, really impressive at this point. This dude is battling with Brook Lopez, a defensive player of the year candidate, and Giannis, another defensive player of the year candidate, and an MVP candidate. Right? This is 1-on-2 big man. They're taking turns trying to guard him. Cook Giannis. There was a play he made Giannis look like a little baby. Right? This is what we're talking about. Right? Where you have a off night and you still give your team 21. Yeah, you know what I mean? 21 and 11 on an off night. 21, 11 and 4 is a bad game. Right? But 33% from the field is really, really low. But a tough team with a tough interior. So that was going to be there. Back-to-back games for us where we play tough teams with tough interiors. And I think the difference between this game and last game is the perimeter shooting really stepped up, and they were intentional about attacking the drop coverage. But I think he had a great game. Defensively, he played one of the better games I've seen him play, especially some of the perimeter defense on Dame. Even though Dame got to the free throw line and got to the cup a couple times on him, but being able to cut him off, being able to play help side, being the man that's coming off to double Giannis on some of the plays to force him to kick out, then rotating back out. This is improvement. He had, I think, one of the best defensive ratings in the starting 5 from this game. Just a complete game, man. Just the only thing he was missing was his offense. But as you guys know, I don't look at like, oh, this guy, what did they shoot? You got to look at the game in totality. So I like what he did. Jalen Green, this was a really Jalen is on a stretch. I can honestly say that this stretch of games, going back about maybe 6 or 7 games now, maybe 5 or 6, is probably the most consistent I've seen Jalen Green play as an all-around basketball player. Not offensively, because I really don't care about that right now. I need him to be a plus on the court, and he was a plus in this game. In fact, he had the highest plus minus on the starters. And Jalen he had the highest offensive rating. He is playing the type of ball that I want to see him play just going forward, that he can build upon. The shot selection was much better in this game. He took threes coming off the screens. He got to the empty corner on some of the screens with Sengun and didn't snake. If you guys notice, he's not snaking those screens anymore. He hasn't done that in a couple of games. Somebody must have showed him the film, right? So he's not cutting across Sengun's face. He's taking what the defense gives him. That's okay that he only had what he had. Let me see. Jalen had 16 points. That's perfectly fine because he's playing winning basketball. The defense was impressive. The defense was impressive. I loved, his rotations, his help. I think he had a block or he had he was contesting. I just think he had a really, really good game. And just like when I saw with Jabari, when he started to bend that corner a little bit, I think Jalen is bending that corner. And to me, when Dylan comes back, when Tari comes back, if Jalen is a plus, then we are ready, bro. We are ready. And I'm going to talk about being ready in a little bit more. Fred, I think Fred had he had a good game. Not his best game, but it wasn't like, as bad as his stats look. Obviously, he shot terribly, 4 of 13 from the field. But he controlled the game in stretches, especially when I was complaining about them not getting the ball to Sengun. I think he finally snapped back into it after taking a bad 3 or 2 and then started forcing the action of getting Sengun in the post-ups in that third quarter where we were kind of peel away a little bit. But Fred had a good game. One thing I will give him credit for is his like attacking that drop coverage. If Fred can do that going forward, and this is something that to me, he struggled with his shot selection. As old as he is as a player, how many times, he's been in the playoffs, won a championship. He has a lot of room to improve as a shooter, not just his shooting like itself efficiency, but shot selection. He has a shot selection of a rookie sometimes. So if he can pick his spots better, knowing when to come off and hit that mid-range has to be his bread and butter. That got to be his bread and butter. That mid-range, that little Chris Paul pull-up coming off the screen on the pick and roll. Fred is a guy that I would like to see snake a screen to take back the leverage from the defense to get into his mid-range shot. So that has to be his shot because that's his version of a layup. He has to make that mid-range shot the equivalent of a layup like Chris Paul does because he's an undersized guard once again. Can't let the teams just swat your shot from the rim every damn play or just throw up something crazy. So really happy with the way he played. Could have played a lot better, but you take what you get for him. He was the only negative in the starters. Jeff Green played 34 minutes. Jeff is playing over his head. I hate that we have to rely on Jeff Green this much, but that kind of leads to what I was talking about yesterday on the live stream about the team construction. We are playing with a house of cards where we need Jeff Green to drop 16 points on 45, 40, and 80% splits in order for us to win, right? I don't want to rely on that. And I think that, Jeff is playing a good role for us and he's playing over his head and I love it. But the Rockets just have to be able to do better in building out this roster. Aaron Holiday, man. 4-7, right? The stats look good. He shot 57, 3 of 5 from 3, hit some big threes, but man, bro, this dude is one of the most annoying people to watch play. I love the kid. I know his heart is in the right place, but somebody has to get to him and tell him, brother, you are the backup point guard. You are not 2018 James Harden, right? You're not 96 Jordan. You're not 2004 Kobe. I don't know what player he envisions himself to be right now, but somebody got to tell little bro, like, nah, that's not you, dog. Like, just play your role. Like, you could see him in his head trying to think about passing, but everything he wants to do is ISO, pull up, ISO, let me get to my floater. Like, bro, it was cool when he was like, the new guy. Yeah. Nah, man, we trying to win games. And a lot of times he just gets so tunnel vision that it's really annoying, but he played decent. I think he's not doing himself any serve. Nobody wants Aaron Holiday. And this is the same thing that happened with the young guys from last year, with Jay Gupp and them. They tell you, go to summer league, learn how to pass the ball and play defense. You go out there and try to drop 40. Like, that is not your role. Your role is going to be defined because you're not a star player. You're not a starter level player. So you need to have a niche role to play. If the niche is defined for you, you are a backup point guard on a team with offensive options. Play that to a T because more than likely other teams watching film on you do not need you to come in and score 20, right? So he just needs to learn from that. Amen Thompson, I think, had a good game. The shooting is, but I think you can start to see some of the formations of what he could be as a player. I mean, the first step is elite, the speed, transition, he pushes pace. Really, really like what I'm seeing. He reminds me of a young Russ, to be honest. It reminds me of a young Russ. He's going to be rough around the edges, but as he figures and the game slows down, I think you guys are going to get to see more from him. But I like that he played. He was a +7. I think that was a team high. A man on those bench units with Cam Whitmore. Cam the man. I'm going to save Cam for last, but I think them together being a positive, developing that synergy is definitely a great thing for the Rockets going forward. And then Cam Whitmore, it's only 12 minutes, shot 4-6, 66%, 101 from 3, got to the line 3 times. He is a scoring machine. Got 3 rebounds, a big body bully. Had Dame looking like a baby. You know what I mean? I wish Cam would steal the Russell Westbrook rock the baby thing just to do it on Dame, but had Dame looking small. 12 minutes, 12 points. Dude is a scoring machine, but what you love about what Cam Whitmore does is not even the scoring right now. It's just the effort he's playing with on the defensive side of the ball. So great, great to see him in that context of that team defense, rotating, taking on the challenge of trying to get posted up by Giannis, just doing all the things that you want a guy to do. That's once again trying to find a niche. The thing for Cam, the challenge for Cam is not going to be required at this moment in his career to be a bucket. Like we don't, even though the Rockets need him to be a bucket sometimes, the main thing is going to keep him on the court is his defensive intensity and attention to detail on that end, hustling, hitting your open shots in the flow of the offense and running in transition. If he can do that, and he's been doing that, you cannot keep him off the court. There is no reason you can't keep him off the court. And just watching him play, he has a skill set that not one player on the Rockets has right now, especially in our perimeter players. Now, Alperen Sengun has it, but he's not a perimeter player. He is one of the few players on the perimeter on our team that can get into the paint at will and finish for multiple reasons, whether it's Dylan, he kind of goes a little wild sometimes, takes a lot of off-balance shots. Not really just he's a decent finisher, but, y'all seen him play. Fred, short, gets there. He's not athletic, can't really. Jalen's too small. Jabari handles are real loose. Cam got a straight line to the basket, and he will bump and draw that, get those feet in the paint and finish strong and draw the foul. That is a very rare skill set on this team that I would love to explore more. The thing for guys like Cam that you want to see, and I think Coach Udoka is doing a great job, is once you have that skill set where you can get feet in the paint, and he's a paint touch king, like he can get in the paint at will, can you kick out? Can you kick out? That is because just getting in the paint and drawing, like that is great, but can you kick out? If he can kick out, Cam can be a star in this league. But you love to see it. I'd love to see his efficiency scaled up slowly over these games to see if the mark of that star player is real in him, which is that if you have a player that is efficient in small volumes, if you scale it out over longer periods of time, over time, does it sustain? If it sustains, Sengun had that mark. If it sustains, then you got a player. I'd love to see that. So I'm going to be watching out for that. So one point I wanted to make before I closed out this video is, this was something I was talking about on the live stream yesterday about whether the Rockets should make a move at this trade deadline or to stand back and just watch the team that they have now. And just watching them over the past few weeks, especially in the month of December, I am at the utmost, I am almost 100% sure in my heart that they need to make a move. They have to make a move. And the reason I say they have to make a move is because this team is actually viable. Why is that important? Why is having a viable team important? Because historically, when you have a defined team that is viable and you have a player like Sengun and you have young players on your team like the Jabaris and all these guys, the quicker you get them in the playoffs, the better it is for the future of your franchise. The playoffs is a launching pad for a lot of dynasties. The playoffs is a launching pad for contenders. The playoffs is a launching pad for success. A lot of teams think that development is linear, meaning that, okay, we look good this year. We won 32 games. We're a scrappy team. It's up and up from here. And usually life doesn't work like that. You are one injury. You are one a leaked video of somebody doing something they're not supposed to do. You are one accident. Something happens to take one of your key players that you are banking on to take your franchise forward into the future away from being back in square one. So there are no throwaway seasons in the NBA. So if you're seeing a team that is scrapping and is actually in the playoff mix, as a GM, Rafael Stone needs to make the move to be able to bolster this team. Now, the question then comes in is, what type of moves should the Rockets make? Now, people usually come at me and when I say, yeah, they need to make a move, it's, why would you trade any of the core six? Why would you? Have you looked at our roster? I am not advocating for any of our young guys to be traded. I'm not saying that you need to touch any of them. Keep your six good players. In fact, you don't even have to trade any of the rotation players right now. But you look at the roster and you see that the Rockets are coming out into games with 3 or 4 guys that are literally unplayable. Jock Landale, unplayable. Boban, unplayable. You got Reggie Bullocks, unplayable. You know what I mean? That's on every single night. You're going into a game with 3 players that should be helping your rotation, especially on a young team. Then you move up a little bit. Cam and the men are rookies. They're just learning. So that's 5 guys that you really can't rely on. And then the bottom tier of your bench is Aaron Holiday and the Jayshawn Tates of the world. You know what I mean? On most teams, those guys probably aren't getting a lot of real minutes. So that's almost 7 players. That's almost half your team really shouldn't be playing in an NBA game as much as they're playing. And yet here we are, right? Here we are, 2 games above 500. So what that tells me is that you're viable. You're viable. So the Rockets, they need to make a move to bolster their bench. Make moves on the peripheries, right? You don't have to go all in. This doesn't have to be the move, but you need to make a move. And the reason this is important, like I said, historically, when young teams that come out of losing context are able to get a playoff appearance, it launches them to that next level. I'm going to go through some of the teams in the NBA, probably in the recent years that we know and love right now, that have made it based off of first-time playoff appearances to become champions and contenders. And this is in no chronological order, just the way I looked it up. 2021, the Atlanta Hawks. After only winning 20 games the previous season, they won 41 games. And that year, just by winning 41 games, after only winning 20 games, sound familiar? Guess where they ended up? Conference Finals. Best player, Trae Young, a young guy, right? 2018 Sixers, a player made it to the second round of the playoffs, winning 52 games in 2018 after only winning 28 games. Guess what their best player was? A young guy, a big man, averaging 21, 11, and 3. Sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? Right? 2017, the Bucks, first round exit, right? Winning 42 games that season, 33 wins previously. Guess who their best player? A big man, Giannis. 2013 Warriors, a second round exit, winning 47 games in 2013. Prior year, they only won 23 games with a young Steph Curry at the helm. 2021 Grizzlies, a first round exit, only winning 38 games. Went on to, like I said, losing the first round. Ja Morant, best player on that team, a young Ja Morant. The 2020 Suns, the bubble Suns that, the feel-good story, made it to the bubble and just ran through a lot of teams, almost made the playoffs that year. But only won 34 games in that season, but that atmosphere that there was in set the context for them to be able to go on to the next year to appear in the finals. And I said this on a live stream. In the NBA, this stuff happens like this. 1 minute you're a 20-win team, the next minute you're in the second round of the playoffs. So when you see a team that can go toe-to-toe with Milwaukee, when you have players in Sengun that can go toe-to-toe with some of the best big men in the NBA, with Joker, with Embiid, with Giannis, you got to at least give yourself the best opportunity to be able to enter the playoffs. Because like I said, nothing is linear in the NBA. And you look at some of the teams that have struggled, right, in recent years. You look at the Magic, they made the playoffs in 2019 and 2020, still trying to get in like us. On that, last time they made the playoffs was done by vets. Prior to that, they hadn't made the playoffs since 2012. So that's damn near a 20-year drought. And the only 2 years they did it was just a veteran-laden team, right? So the reason I'm pointing them out is because there's an alternate, where everybody says you don't want to be a middle-of-the-pack team. It's one thing to be a middle-of-the-pack team with a bunch of 21, 22, 23-year-olds. It's another thing to be a middle-of-the-pack team with 28 and 30-year-olds, right? So that's where you don't want to be, right? 2012, They're trying to get in. And I think this is the year they're going to get in. But that springboards you, right? That springboards you. The 2019 Pistons was the first round exit with their best player being a veteran Blake Griffin. Prior to that, hadn't made the playoffs since 2016. The 2016 Hornets, Kemba Walker, right? That's the last time they've made the playoffs. The 2023 Kings, first time they made the playoffs since 2006. The reason I'm bringing up these teams, because having talent and young players doesn't mean nothing, bro. You still got to get in the dance. And the teams I named off at first, they got in the dance with their young players, and it took them off. You look at their basketball reference pages, playoff appearance, playoff appearance, playoff appearance. I'm saying all this to say we need to make a move. We need to make a move. We can't go into these fights expecting Alp or Jalen to drop 30 and 30, even though they might. Hey, man, when we go to the bench, give me a shooter. Give me a viable backup five. I can't rely on Jeff Green playing 35 minutes a game. This is where Rafael Stone needs to show his stuff. We've seen Coach Udoka. We know what he is. We've seen some of these young guys, Jabari turned the corner. Alp's an all-star level. We know what Fred is. We know what everything is. Rafael Stone, this team is viable. Give them the best chance to make it to the playoffs. The priority for the team right now, we need a backup five and we need shooting. We need a backup five and we need shooting. I think, I would say an honorable mention need would be like a ball handler, but I think by committee between Fred, Jalen, with Amen, with Sengun, they can kind of fix that. But give us some shooters, man. Give me a shooter. Give me a bench unit where I could put Alp out there with Jabari, with Fred, a shooter, and like Dylan or Tariq. Just give me that space. I want to see this because right now, everything our guys have to do is hard. How can all these teams converge on Alperen Sengun when he's posting up? Because there's no consequence, because he's kicking it out to Jayshawn freaking Tate, bro. He's kicking it out to Jayshawn Tate. Punish these teams. Stone, go get us some spacing. Give Ime some tools that he can use. The guy wants to shoot a bunch of threes. Give him some tools we can use. The Rockets are viable. They are viable. This team is real. I'm not saying we're going to win a championship, but, we got to get in the dance. I want to be like the OKC Thunder where they got in the play-in appearance and now they're the second in the West. That's what it takes. Imagine what it looks like for your players if they go to a first round and get bounced, right? 6. We lose in 6 to Minnesota. What is on Jabari's mind if he got punked in the post that whole series? Or Sengun, where he was a little weak, couldn't back down some of the players. Or Jalen, where Ant was on him. Do you think they're going to go to Cabo for their summer vacation? Not if they're made of the right stuff. These things matter. Progression is not linear. You can never take anything for granted. And CJ Stroud said it best. Don't wait. You got to do it right now. It's not next year or the year after that. You got to go for it right now. And the Rockets need to go for it. Go get some help on the bench to help these kids and Fred and Coach Udoka so we can truly compete and show what the star potential of our players is, because you're killing two birds. Not only are you getting your players better, motivating them to do better, you're also setting the stage for any potential free agents that want to come down to Houston and try to contend for a championship. But y'all let me know, man. What was your favorite part of the game? Mine was the defense. I think the defense was excellent. And also, if you had to get a player in here, who would it be? Who is your trade that you think that we can bring into this team to help us make the playoffs? Y'all keep rocking with the Chop Shop. We're going to keep dropping that fire.
Love you guys, man. Love the work. This is a huge accomplishment, man. First time this organization's been to the playoffs since, I think, 2019. All right? Again, nobody matter. It doesn't matter what people say on the outside. It's about the men in this room. Continue to believe in each other. Continue to fight every single snap. We got special people in this room. This is a special group of men. Believe it. Continue to lean on each other. Continue to trust in each other. We can go as far as we want to go.
Texas!
CJ, welcome to the playoffs. How does that sound to you?
Man, it's a blessing. I can't do nothing but just thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, man. I'm sorry. I put a lot of work in. My team has. Everybody counted us out from the start. So, man, it's just special to see the city of Houston just on the come up again. And I'm just blessed enough to be the vessel that Christ picked to lead this great franchise. So I can do nothing but just thank the Lord.